says I'm on. Am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. Well, good morning. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
It is great today, and if you are visiting for the first time, we extend a very warm welcome to you. We are so glad that you've chosen to be here at CrossPointe Church for Easter Sunday. Well, take a look around and then answer this question. What do you think I'm going to talk about this morning? Walls. You got it. So just a couple of questions here. What is the most famous wall? It's some 4,000 miles long. We have a picture of it here. Great Wall of China. You got that one. Remember in 1987, Ronald Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. What wall was he talking about? The Berlin Wall. And we know those walls. Those are a couple of the famous walls that we all know about. The walls we're going to talk about today aren't famous, but they are very real to us and very important to us. Because all of us come up against walls in our life, right? We all come against walls. And I'm talking about psychological walls, emotional walls, mental walls, and spiritual walls. What happens in our life is that, we're just kind of plugging along through life and things are going pretty well for us, but then boom, we run into one of these things, one of these walls, and our life comes to a complete standstill. One of the walls that people run into a lot today is the vocational wall. And I'm not just talking about the recession that we're in. There are millions of Americans that really don't like their job. They're simply working for a paycheck, and if they could find something else to do, they would. And they have run into this vocational wall. Now, another group of people might say, well, that would be a little bit pushing it for me because I don't mind my job so much. I just don't see the point of it. I don't feel like I'm making any difference in the world. They too have run into this vocational wall. Some of you this morning, probably in the last year or so, have lost your jobs. And you've run into this vocational wall. Because you went to school to learn a trade, or you're skilled to do something specific, and you lost your smack dab into this wall because you don't have an area to use your expertise, and you wonder what's going to happen in your life, and you're kind of slammed up against this vocational wall today. A lot of people are here this morning. Let's take a look at this.
I'd seen the news that the economy was bad. People were losing their jobs. But it was all just news to me until 2 days before Thanksgiving. Architecture firm that I was working at, I found out that effective immediately everyone was being laid off. My first thoughts were, how do I tell my wife? How do I tell my kids? What will they think of me? How do we celebrate Thanksgiving? Never did I think that my years of education and training would lead me to this point.
This is a real wall. Probably a real wall for some of you here today. If you're up against this wall, here's what I want you to know. On this Easter Sunday morning, if you have ears to hear, the risen Christ has a word of hope for you. Some people don't really have to deal with this vocational wall, and they're just kind of plugging along through life and things are going well for them, but they run into another wall, a relational wall, and their life comes to a complete standstill. Because this relational wall, this is where we get hurt so deeply that we just don't know how to function. We don't know how to go on with life. This relational wall represents the barriers that we feel many times in marriage, or family, or friendships. It's the dynamic we feel when relationships go south. There's nothing we can do about them. Some of you could possibly be up against this wall this morning. This relational wall also is for those of you who have a strong desire to get married. And you would just like to get married so desperately. We know that a lot of people are up against this wall because eHarmony does millions worth of dollars of business every year, right? So there are a lot of people trying to get under or around the roof of this wall. Well, if that's you, let me just say this to you. There is a flip side to that coin. Because as a pastor, I do a lot of marriage counseling. And with about half the couples that I counsel, they probably would say, well, I wish we wouldn't have been quite so quick to jump into marriage in the first place. If they really could do what they wanted to do, they might just like to put their spouse on eBay and auction them off to the highest bidder. Because they're a little tired of the pain in marriage. Now, I kid about that, but really seriously, some of the hardest walls that we hit are within marriage. They really are. Some of you know what I'm talking about because this morning you may have even thought, I would just do anything if I could get out of this marriage gracefully. Or you might think, I would do anything if I could fix my marriage. So this is a real wall for us. Now, this also represents the wall that fathers come into when they have animosity, an argument with a son, brothers, who don't speak to one another, mothers and daughters. Boy, we all know what that's like. So this wall represents that also. This wall also represents young couples desire for a family. And they hope and plan and dream. But they're disappointed in their hopes. And they are stuck at this wall. Let's take a look at this.
Jeff and I actually met at Easter dinner. His aunt was a friend of mine, and of course, neither of us had a place to go that Easter. So we wound up around the same table. She claims it wasn't a setup, but I still don't truly believe her. It took us quite a while to get married. 3.5 years we dated. Life was a little complicated. We were both busy and doing stuff, and we also just wanted to be confident that this was the person forever. We just kind of settled into married life, and things were comfortable and good. So naturally, you think about having a family, and you think, well, everybody else is doing it, and we wanted to do it too, and it was great. Got pregnant easy, and went for all the appointments, and heard the heartbeat, and started dreaming, decorating the nursery, and just everything was great. 1 week appointment, and I crawled up on the table, and they searched for a heartbeat and didn't find one. I couldn't believe it, really. I prayed for a miracle, that God would do a miracle, but it was confirmed with the ultrasound that the baby had died, and so then they brought us to labor and delivery and induced, and it's crazy to be a delivery. Someone else is going to get you. We delivered a little girl. See, said when she was born, she's a miracle, and indeed it's a miracle, even if they don't live, that something that intricate is created without anybody ever touching it. Our nurse sat by the bed. Before she left, she said one more thing. She said, but what I would want you to know is you should look for something perfect and beautiful on your child. There's something perfect and beautiful on every child. She was right. She was perfect and beautiful. We delivered Lucy in 2004. That's a long time ago. It's 2009. We've had 8 more miscarriages. 8. A total of 9. It seems unbelievable that you can have that much loss in your life and that God just doesn't come through. It's hard to think about what's perfect and beautiful when all around everybody's getting pregnant and everybody's having kids, and now their second child, some of them, since we started trying. Some people don't even want to be pregnant. Some people are mad about their life with kids, and all the while we just want what they have. It's been hard to see what's perfect and beautiful in our circumstance.